In the last video, we talked about music soundtracks underscoring the emotional journey during any film or show. There's so many movie themes that have become iconic, aren't there? The Star Wars theme, or Let It Go from Frozen, or the Marvel Avengers theme. Go back a few years and listen to The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Or how about the theme to Jaws, or James Bond? It's great music. But why do these soundtracks stay with us? As soon as I mention the Pink Panther, some of you immediately hear that simple yet sneaky sort of jazz tune led by an impish saxophone. You could probably sing the theme right now. How about The Lion King? How about Somewhere Over the Rainbow from The Wizard of Oz? And I know you don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. And I'll bet you can think of so many more. And these are just from pop culture. The music that stays with us is the music that invites an emotional response from us. And the composers that write these masterful, unforgettable, soul-moving pieces of music are well-versed in how to get the job done. They have a very skillful toolbox. But it's not just movie soundtracks that make use of these tools. Any music will follow a very similar set of principles in terms of how it makes you feel. And how exactly do they do that? What does that toolbox look like? I'm glad you asked. It turns out that music imparts emotion, always. Music itself will never impart knowledge or communicate facts. That's the job of the lyrics, if there are any. No, music will always communicate on an emotional level. And the way it does that is through exploiting the common ground owned by both, namely tension. Music and emotion are both states of tension, positive or negative, simple or complex, low, moderate, or high levels of tension. And the more specific you can get in describing the emotion you're trying to communicate, the easier it will be to express it through mechanical musical means. Let's get very specific. If we were to start by listing, say, 8 to 20 emotions, what would we include? Let's start with some really basic ones, like happy and sad, angry, excited, depressed, afraid, content, and bored. And you can really make the list as long as you want. You could add, for instance, ecstatic, enraged, perturbed, horrified, anxious, confused, worried, delighted, frustrated, frantic, mischievous, awestruck, pompous, adventurous, nostalgic. I'm just going to demonstrate the first 8. Now we need to describe each of these emotions in 3 categories: positive or negative, simple or complex, and the relative level of tension or energy. You can use a scale from 1 to 5. And here's where we might disagree somewhat. Just as good music is subjective, and what I like may not be what you like, you and I might categorize these emotions differently. For this example, I'll fill the table in my way, but feel free to disagree with me. That's okay, it's allowed. When possible, it's helpful to find emotions that seem to be opposites. Now to define each one. Most of us think happy is a positive emotion, so I'll indicate that here with a plus. And happy is a pretty simple emotion to understand. My dog wags her tail as soon as I walk in the door. She's glad to see me, and that makes me happy. So I'll put an S in this column. Now the level of tension, or energy, I'll say is a 2. It's more than just content, which is further down our list, but it's less than excited, or say enthusiastic. Certainly less than fanatic. For this value, it's really helpful to compare to other emotions as much as you can. Now I'll fill in the other emotions. Again, this is very subjective, and your chart doesn't have to look like mine, but maybe mine is a good starting place for you. Angry is the first emotion I'm labeling as complex. Think of the reasons you get angry. I think until you reach the level of rage, when it becomes simple, to me, there are multiple factors behind it. So complex works for me. Now that we've got some emotions defined, how do we apply principles of music to help us express them as we play? Here's how each category can be reflected in the music. Positive and negative are expressed through major and minor. that is, major or minor chords, scales, or modes. Simple and complex are expressed through how many notes you use in each structure. Triads and pentatonic modes will sound simpler. Embellished chords and diatonic or chromatic scales and modes will sound more complex. And you can get the exact level of tension or energy you're after by controlling the pitch, volume, duration, and timbre in your musical phrases. I'm listing how each facet increases the tension, and the opposite direction for each one will decrease the tension. One thing you'll notice pretty quickly is that these categories aren't particularly nuanced. They paint with a fairly broad brush. The good news is there are lots of tools in the musician's toolbox that will help you refine your playing, composing, and arranging. Use of different instruments, tempos, articulations, ranges, dynamics, rhythms, all will help you refine your music. But again, this is a good place to start. So there's a quick look into how the emotional intent of the composer can be built into the music. Kind of a glimpse at the secret sauce. Let me give you some quick examples on the piano, and you be the judge on how I did. So that's how I connect the dots and reflect each emotion mechanically. Now it's your turn. Using the musical tools that you know, whatever your level, try to play something with a particular emotion in mind. Now contrast it with an emotion that seems to be opposite to the one you chose. Can you hear the difference? This is all, of course, quite the inexact science. The way I play content might be the way you play happy, for instance. But this approach will give you a pretty specific place to start. I hope all of this helps you as a next step musician to inject more emotion into your music. Enjoy the journey as you create your art. Thanks for watching. Now go and make some beautiful music, and I'll see you in the next video.